give you guys some exclusive stuff because we spent like, how long? 6, 7 years together?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like, it's no different than a relationship, that's for sure. Creative relationships are no different. Like we
lived together
hate-love
for 6
relationship.
years, you know.
Break up to make up every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that means as a director and a producer, treatment writer, editor, assistant editor, you know, we went through some things. I mean, just naturally as two men, young men. But we did sit together and we did develop a good treatment, you know, like idea sessions, and then we were able to like split it up. And so how many of you guys have to write treatments or know what treatments are and stuff like that? Yeah, concepts and stuff? Yeah? So whether it's like a music video, a wedding, commercial, obviously, anything visual that you guys are gonna get with your clients, I suggest everything I'm gonna tell you guys, you may not have to do right now. You may be like okay to get this like job and not have to do it. And I don't have to edit the way that I edit. I don't have to offline my edits, but I do because when I get that project that does need that, I don't need to change my flow. Like I'm already locked in, you know? So we kind of designed our own sort of system, but it was a system that was meant for like record studios. We were getting, I don't know, $80,000 to $10,000 jobs.
We come from the narrative world, and I think that's kind of what set ourselves apart or just made us different from other directors. I think, you know, there's a lot of directors out there that come from the photography world, right? And guys who are sort of used to just getting one specific sort of beautiful snapshot. And we came from
They're dope.
Yeah, and which are dope.
Anthony Mandler, you know,
totally.
there's a bunch of Taj.
That's just not where I came from or where Matt came from. Mm-hmm. We came from, like I said, we were storytellers from the jump. And so we always approach treatments from, let's make a short film. Like, let's make a mini short film in 3 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it goes with any sort of, when you're starting a story, if you're going to write something, you know, obviously you have to be concerned with the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I think for me, like what always sort of works for me, even now when I think of something, is the ending is always the hardest part, right? Because, you know, people tell me I love when people tell me all the time, they're like, hey, I got this great idea for this movie. It's about this guy and he collects stamps. Okay. And then what? Well, it's just, you know, he goes and he collects stamps and then, okay, well, what else? You know, and I think that's often the hardest part about telling a story, is finding that end and finding what we can connect to. And obviously, yeah. You guys, if you don't, you should, you know, there's a lot of books out there and a lot of, you know, content out there for storytelling.
Yeah. I'll send a PDF out to you guys to like some of my favorite stuff and some of the books that we actually had to read in college.
And some of this stuff goes back to literally Aristotle. I don't know if you guys know this. I mean, Shakespeare, Aristotle, like way
Poetics.
back. These are structural elements to a story that have stood the test of time.
No, what I love the most though is like, oh, I don't need storytelling, I'm just doing a vlog, or I don't need storytelling, I'm just doing an Instagram post, or I don't need a story, I'm doing a music video. But like some of the videos you guys mentioned, The City, I mean, it doesn't have a full-on narrative, like it's not like, you know, because there's a reason for that too, we'll talk about that a little bit, but it has a story. Even Martians vs. Goblins has a beginning, middle, and end. It establishes the world, he's a character, maybe he wants something or he needs something because he's in a straitjacket, whatever it is, and then we realize that whatever's the outcome of it. Does he change the character? He actually physically changes because he turns into another creature. So technically it's a narrative, you know? And that's why those videos did so well. That's why those videos you guys remember. Over the other ones that were like technically better than that one maybe. Or bigger budgets, because Martians vs. Goblins was 20,000?
Yeah.
20,000.
And you know, unfortunately, I wish I could pull up my computer and show you.
Well, I have.
I mean, we were talking about.
I have my computer.
We've written. I've written.
I'm gonna let you guys in on my computer.
Over 150 to 200 treatments, and it's hard because, you know, a lot of times we would come with these amazing ideas and they just didn't want that. So part of pitching and the first part is understanding who you're pitching to and who you're pitching for and what they want and what they represent. Because obviously you're not going to put
Well, let's
an
ask
artist.
them. What, like
Yeah.
somebody an idea. Like if Kino Flow came to you, or Lupo or Quasar or anybody came to you guys, like a lighting company maybe, what would you guys like? Somebody just give me like an idea, like off the top of your head. I want a commercial. Like, what would be your first thought? Like, where would your mind go?
What's your goal?
Okay, good. Yeah. You sat with me for. Don't be cheating. Kidding. I'm kidding. Anybody else? Like, really?
How do you define the project as a success? What is success to you?
That's good. That's great. That is great because you're aligning. Yeah, that's psychology tricks right there. You know why? Because success, your name comes out of my mouth. So subconsciously, I'm connecting success with your name automatically just by telling you what's successful, what's going to be successful. That's an amazing thing to do. Yeah, absolutely. I never did that, and that's something we got to add to our repertoire. Okay, that's good. That's good too. But I'm taking it one step further. And one thing that we always asked was, who is the audience first? Okay, so who's the audience? And I'm telling you, like, everybody tells me, like, well, why do I need that? It's just like a music video. But everything is a product. Artists are not just doing that just to do it. They want to sell records. And more so now they want to sell, they want you to click their videos because their videos go against their billboards, plaques. And obviously they get money right off of them, like literally with the money. So now even more so, but at the same time, you're getting people who want to shoot on a cell phone because they want the clicks. But that doesn't, you can't make your choice based on what other people like, what other people want creatively like that. Like, if they want to go do that, then that's great. And if that aligns with your career because you want to shoot a feature on a cell phone, then great, then do it. But if it doesn't, then don't. Or if you want to challenge yourself, do it, right? But first thing you need to look at is your target audience, right? And I don't know how much we've been able to actually ask, because like when you get a solicitation from the record company, so this is a two-part thing, guys. First off, so a professional solicitation is going to come with, it's going to say solicitation most likely, or it's going to say the artist is going to give you all the information. It's going to give it to you bullet pointed. So like it's going to be time, or the date we want to shoot, the date the videos, the delivery of the deliverables, where it needs to shoot at, the budget, maybe even the weather of the day that day. But it's going to give you enough information to know like they know what they're talking about, and if like they at least know enough to get you these simple things. That one person who emails you like, yo, how much for like a video? Then just off top, unless you can send them back an email with, I'll give you guys the list of things to ask, but unless they can hit you back with, when do you want to shoot? Where do you want to shoot? What's your budget? I don't really care what my budget, or I don't have a day rate. What's your budget? Okay? And do you have any creative ideas? And what do you want to say with this video? If they can't answer that, then you pretty much have it's going to be a headache, and you have to just know that off top. So now, right away, first email I get, if it's like that, I normally try not to respond, but I try to at least kind of, if they made the effort to email me, they're making an effort, so I got to make an effort at least back, right? So I send them that stuff. Most of the time, they hit me back with a one-liner again, like, just, let me know. I'm like, all right. It's not going to work out. So when you get one like this, though, guys, then it's like it's going to be serious. They're going to at least like hear you out, and you're going to have to deliver on time, and they're going to hold you accountable. I mean, because they're holding themselves accountable, So first thing that we would do, we would look at who the audience, or maybe the audience of the song too, because it changed. Like we had a Slaughterhouse video that was like about. Remember, it was the Slaughterhouse video that we did. We were going to shoot it in a graveyard with angels and stuff like that, but it was Slaughterhouse, and it's like. It's not really their brand, but at the same time, the song was very like introspective. It was very, just emotional. So what are some of the things that drove us to like our creative? So first the audience, and then how do we speak to them? And that's going to be like in two ways. I think we never really got too hung up on lyrics, huh?
Yeah, I mean, depending on obviously what the concept was, I think a lot of times I would try and listen for keywords that could influence your idea. But, it really, I think, just depends on what the concept is. If you're doing a more, lyric-based treatment where the lyrics are informing what you're seeing, we kind of we would do a little bit of both, but I think we would mostly concern ourselves with, okay, what kind of cool situation, cool story could we create? And what he also forgot to mention is sometimes the labels will give you a brief blurb on maybe an idea that they
now
have.
So they'll give you like paragraphs, back then they wouldn't give us that much. They would just say, hey, we want it to feel this way or something.
Yeah, she likes horses. So you're like, okay, well, what can I do with horses?
Or they'd say like, I want it really out of the box. That was the best one.
Yeah.
We really want it left lane. Then we would put together some really cool stuff, and I'll show you some of the treatments that we put together. And we were like proud of these things. We were like, hell yeah. No, you end up seeing the video after, and it'd be like
it was them in front of a car.
Yeah, with some girls in the back popping. Like,
and we wrote a cool, trailer, a cool short film with a beginning, middle, end twist.
So it taught us to kind of take that with a grain of salt, no matter what they said. You know what I mean? Like, Dope Boys, no one knew about. Like Martians vs. Goblins, Game didn't even read the treatment. Like some of these videos, Soldier Boy didn't know, turn my swag on. Like Interscope didn't even know we were doing the video. Like they asked to go shoot a video, and the video had already been #1 for like 2 weeks, and they were like, "What?" Because like they didn't know we went around it. We went to the marketing company. So I think like most of our most successful ideas, we kind of we trusted ourselves and we did them, huh?
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of the best ideas never got made because
we'll show you some of those
because the
artist
artist
enough time.
And it was just because the artist didn't feel like it fit for them. And once, he just said that. It's like a lot of times we're like, man, this would be so cool to put this person in this situation. And then you see the video and it's them in front of a white wall. Man.
Go ahead, Mo.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say that.
No, absolutely not. You should definitely rehash them and relook at them. But I gotta give you, this is a two-part here, guys, because there's definitely some good ideas, but they were written for a specific brand or a specific, artist or a person, right? So I could say, 3 weeks ago, I got an opportunity from one of a close friend of ours who's now, a really high position at one of these record labels, and he sent me a video solicitation, 90,000. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is not like 5,000. Like, this is dope, cool. Let me do something. But he wanted it in like 4 hours. Like, oh, can you get that to me by 8? And I'm like, fuck. And then I called Mike, and I just like, what do I do? Like, what do we do? And then I ended up finding a treatment that I had actually written for this exact song. But like a couple weeks, maybe a couple months prior, I was like, maybe he didn't get it. Maybe he didn't get it. So let me just like rehash this real quick, change the date and stuff like that, and send it out. But the original idea we had written for, what was his name? Lil Pump. Mm-hmm. We had wrote for Lil Pump, and so it just didn't fit the artist. And the email, I didn't even get an email back. I got a subtweet or a sub post that was like, directors, research your artist, know your market. And I was like, damn. And like, what do they say? Like, if the quote fits or the shoe fits, then wear it. Like, maybe he wasn't talking about me, but I damn sure felt that he did because I half-assed that one. That's for sure. But at the same time, he give me 4 hours. But it does work sometimes. It does work, you know what I mean? And you have these creative ideas, and maybe you just have to take a look at them. I literally just changed the date and sent it, so that's where you get in a little bit of trouble. And that's, I have no problem saying that.
Be careful, make sure and change the name.
Yeah,
if you're gonna do that.
not just the name of the title, not the name on the cover page, because then you gotta remember you said the name a bunch of different times, That too, but like when it's like they're reading it like Mariah Carey, and you're like, what? Like whatever the case may be, I'm just saying like, because sometimes we forget, like we definitely forget. But so what we would do is we would figure out the target the audience, and then we try to find an idea that would fit that sort of demo, Some of the things I think we tried to do early was tell too much of a story. So we realized like simple is better when telling a story. That's why Martians vs. Goblin was so effective, because it was not really a story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We try to think of like what narrative environments, narrative like feelings that we could give without having to like go into like, well, he robbed a bank and then he felt bad about it and then, a whole thing.
And by the way, these were things that nobody told us how to write a treatment.
That's
nobody, when we were first starting out, we didn't have, eventually we got to see some references from other directors like Joseph Kahn and like other big directors, but they were nothing like actual. I think the treatments have evolved so much now, even since, I mean, we saw a treatment for like a Joseph Kahn video from like 12 years ago maybe, and it was just writing, and it was just like
1 page of blabber.
just blabber, like no pictures, no nothing. So the sort of thinking on a treatment has definitely changed.
But he's Joseph Kahn though, like, so like he
Yeah.
already established himself. He had shot $1 million videos. So at the same time, I think people trusted whatever he was going
Yeah.
to write down. I think it was a formality at that point. But it definitely gave us confidence in like, okay, we know what we're doing. And that was when we were when we were still working. I was still working with Ski. We were still doing stuff for Ski. Because like when we were at Ski, we were pretty much the top guys, and we were 23, 24, 25. Like we had nobody to really like show us the way. Ski was obviously a DJ and kind of like the the face of the franchise, and we were kind of the face of the franchise of the video world, but without sort of necessarily the work or the levels to get there. We were just kind of given the keys to the car, and so we had to kind of figure out what to do. And I mean, we did pretty well, but it got to a point where we just couldn't grow anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think, what I wanted to say, my point about like kind of learning as we went along with these treatments is, you have to, there's this fine line between selling your project, of course, like pitching the project, and also pitching it so that they can understand. Because, all of us filmmakers, we can, come up with, there's going to be a bird's eye and this and that. But unfortunately, you have to know who's actually reading this too. And a lot of times it's either the artist manager who's reading this, who knows nothing about nothing, but just like sees a cool picture and is like, I want that. Or I don't, those are too many words. Like, I'm not going to read that.
Absolutely.
So I think you have to keep that in mind. And that's something that just kind of, you learn as you go along, right? Like, like we just, it was trial by error. It was like, okay, well, we know not to write something that complicated for that person again, because they're just not going to read it.
Yeah, I think the best things that we did write though were like more of like the documentary style, because we didn't waste any time with like blah 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 blah. We would have like intro pages, then a cinematic style page, and then all this like stuff that was like, it's great, but at the same time it's really more for your crew and more for your guy, like your producer, and like kind of a guidelines, like the guy who's like signing which one he wants, like he just wants, or she, like they just want to see some cool pictures, know what the fuck you're talking about, and like really if you have a connection with that person or somebody in there, they're most likely gonna give it to you. I gotta tell you, relationships are gonna be key. You know what I mean? You write the dopest shit, don't really matter. You know what I mean? Most of the time they don't even read it; it's just a formality. But I think we did pretty well with like up close documentaries and stuff, and they were super simple. I look back at them now, and at the time I'm like, fuck, this treatment sucks or whatever. But it got to the point, and we were able to shoot the content quickly, and we were able to get funding for it, and we were able to like completely capitalize on it. We didn't overthink the treatment, But and I think that's probably for the most part, most of our videos that we got. I have treatments that are like 97 pages of pictures. I mean, not really 97, it's exaggerating. Probably like 32, 34, you know what I mean? But still, even that though, who wants to read that, Or even wants to look at that? Like, it's too much time of my day, But so one thing that we did have a trouble with, like, the one thing that we did have trouble with, and I have to say, like, Mike did a lot of the writing. So like we would sit down and like we would think of an idea, and then I'd be like, all right, I gotta go edit. And Mike would sit down and do the writing, but then he would also look for pictures. And so he got to a point where he's like, Matt, you gotta help me with fucking pictures, bro. And then I actually signed with a different agent. And so what my agent would do is she would look at treatments, and then she would Google whatever pictures that we had in there. Like if we had balloon pictures, she would Google balloons. And if she saw our picture on the first page, she'd send it back to us, because that was unacceptable. As an artist, like, you're not telling me anything other than what you just said in writing. You're not giving me any lighting. You're not giving me any sort of mood. You're just giving me a generic shot of balloons, And so you could talk a little bit about, like, I mean, how hard is it to find specific things that you guys may be talking about for a pitch? Like, you guys ever have that trouble looking for pictures? No one?
Well, I know back when we were doing it too, like Tumblr and Pinterest weren't as big yet. So I think that like the game has just changed a lot. The resources have grown a lot, which it helps now, But I think, it's super important is finding those pictures that speak 1,000 words for you.
And if they don't have them, I suggest to learn, a basic photo editing program to be able to kind of not necessarily go shoot it, but at least be able to put some elements together. And I do that all the time. And like I said, we'll go through some actual treatments of mine. And one thing that I did, I started working with this agent. We started working on bigger projects, and then I got to a level where I was working with like really big DPs, and one DP in particular, and he pretty much like told me I wasn't professional, because at that point like we had come with like our Google images and like we had made it work, but like it doesn't work for everybody like that, and for him he was like a real DP, like he was only going to take the information I gave him, and like he was going to do it like in a stubborn way, in a way to teach me like, okay, you told me this, that's all I'm going to do, right? So finally he spoke down, he's like, bro, you need to fucking reference pictures. Like, you need to grow up. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? I got the treatment's fire. It's lit. Like, gang. Like, let's go. And he's like, just go back and go to these websites. He gave me some like websites to go through, and then he showed me what he would do. And what he would do is he would watch movies that he liked, and he would sit on his computer while he watched them and take freeze frames of them. And he would just do this like religiously. And he said, build yourself an archive. Like, build yourself an archive. So a little bit later, I'll show you my actual archive, and that has helped me tremendously. So, like, now if we write a treatment or anything comes up, I can literally just go into my interior day or my interior night or, desert pictures or whatever the case may be. I literally have them all broken down into, like, shadows and, like, everything, colored lights, different colored pink lights, red lights. And I can literally just pull from pictures that are already, like, great. And that's, yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, well, at that point, then you can work backwards.
Yep.
And instead of thinking of an idea to then find pictures that match that, you can find a cool picture that helps maybe spark an idea. And that's happened plenty of times for us.
And that's what I do on my downtime now, is being able to do that, And that was one problem that we definitely did have a lot, But I got to say, like, writing a treatment on your own and writing a treatment with somebody, it's completely different, It's just like editing on your own, I guess, And we definitely had our challenges, but we definitely had, I think, more success than we did challenges. So anybody out there that does have the ability, and it might be your girlfriend, it might be your friend who doesn't even do filmmaking. To be honest, it's probably the better thing.
So how do you guys balance that partnership with the creative teams? I think that's something that a lot of people might struggle with.
Oh, we didn't. We didn't. Boundary.
Yeah, I think it's just like a mutual respect kind of a thing, and I had to earn that with him, even though we were friends in film school. When I started working with him, it's funny because I laugh about it now. Like the first set that I went on with him, I just wanted to be on it, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, I'm going to be your script supervisor. There's no such thing as a script supervisor on music videos, guys, just so you know, unless you're like have dialogue. But I was like, I'm going to be the script supervisor. So I was like, I would literally, on our first video that I went with him, it was the
what video was that?
Omar Cruz.
Oh yeah.
I was like standing next to
Wilmer
him.
Valderrama.
I was like standing next to him with a
co-directed with me
with a pad, just like writing down every shot. Like, all right, we did a wide shot, and that was cool. Okay, and like like busy work for myself, like not doing anything. But the point of that story is that I had to prove to myself, I had to prove to him that I was, that he not needed me, but that he could use me, and then it became that mutual respect of like, he respects my ideas, and it was, I don't know that we ever fought about an idea. No. I mean, maybe we argued over it a little bit, but
more responsibilities, I think.
But it was like, it was just spitballing. It was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? Oh, well, wouldn't it be cool if then this happened? And then and then you just brainstorm, and we would sit together in by his computer and just talk for hours just about ideas, and like, this would be cool. Oh no, but this would be cool, and so I think it depends on the people, If you're around those people who just continuously shut down your ideas, and that's not somebody that you want to be creatively involved with, because they're not respecting your ideas. So he was very respectful of me and my opinions and ideas, and we just built that relationship over years. It didn't, it didn't happen overnight.
But at the same time, definitely, we came into some things that we had to like figure out, and they aligned with us as people really more so than anything else. There was a time where I got completely lost in like my vision, like I talked about, and I got more consumed with social media than I did fucking what I was actually supposed to do. And he would tell me, and at that point, I just wasn't listening to anybody. And so that caused a creative riff, How can we sit down for treatments when he's going, what the fuck are you doing? And then I'm going, what the fuck are you saying, Like, and then we're supposed to bang out like a treatment, It just, and that just because one of the visions just got a little slanted, but that's definitely going to happen in your creative relationships. But then, you know, you realign yourself and you rock and roll. I mean, you got to remember, like, we were doing treatments, we were editing projects. I mean, we were working nonstop, 24 hours a day.
And living together, by the way, which, you know, looking back now, I don't know that I recommend living with your creative producing business partner, because we would be fighting about, you know, who's going to, you know, buy paper towels, but then we also have to come up with this idea for this treatment, you know, so it didn't always work. But, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
but I think, you know, we were very fortunate to be able to have a really good, solid, like, respectful working relationship. And I knew my role and he knew his role. And, like, I was never trying to overstep, you know, on set. You know, it's interesting because I called myself a producer, but on set, really, I was, especially on his sets, I was also creatively involved. So I was doing so much, you know, standing next to the camera, you know, giving ideas, giving suggestions. You know, that doesn't always work, especially once you get to the bigger stages, per se. But
he was like my intuition, pretty much. Like, I trusted him. If I didn't trust myself, I trusted him. And, like, no, I'm dead serious. I mean, he made himself so indispensable. Like, just the bond between us was like people used to, like, we couldn't see one without the other. It's just the way we were at one point, you know what I mean? And that was a good thing on his part as far as business-wise. I mean, he made himself indispensable. Like, as a business, as a Matt Alonzo director, I didn't feel I could go anywhere without him. Not like I couldn't, but I'm just saying he put himself in a position where he was doing so much for the business and everything that, you know, I had to, you know, we had to be together. Like, I love to be together. It wasn't like that at all, like a had to force thing, but some of the things that he was able to do was, like, help me when I needed help, but then go over and beyond. And so then maybe I wouldn't have to do that second task or third task, which made me give him more tasks and make me, you know, rely on him a little bit more, you know what I mean, as a creative partner. And that's something that if you guys want to get into places and you want to start working with crews and you want to, like, make yourself, that's something that you want to make yourself, you know what I mean? You want to make yourself a commodity, you know what I mean? You want to make yourself someone that when that company, that director, that, you know, person goes on set, they go, damn, I need Hector. Like, where's that, man? I can't do this without him. Because, you know why? You went above and beyond. And you've relieved some of those, you know, tasks from that person, and you've done them well, you know, and that's something that, like, was amazing with his work ethic and just the way that he was solid, man. He rode, you know, and that doesn't come very often, but it's something that we stuck together for years. We did so many projects together, you know.
Well, and what's ended up happening for me since we've gone, you know, our own paths, is because of what I did for Matt, and because people within the industry saw that. You know, my whole philosophy was I was never really concerned. I didn't care if I had fans or if I was on Twitter. Like, I wanted my peers to recognize me. I wanted my peers to know that I was doing shit. I didn't care if Joe Schmo from Arkansas knew who I was. I want people who respect what I do. And because I did what I did for Matt, I was able to gain a reputation for being a treatment writer and for being a good creative producer, and that has parlayed I've been able to parlay that into writing treatments for other directors. So I still now help directors write treatments. I'm not always so creatively involved. A lot of times maybe it's just them telling me their idea and I'm translating it or building on that idea, but the groundwork that I laid with him and the work that I put in with Matt,
the editing.
Yeah, and I mean, I am now, which I would never ever consider myself ever, and when he was doing it, I hated it, but I am pretty much consider myself I guess I could say a professional editor now. I just edited a video for, you know, a $100,000 video for an artist named Smino, and all of that stuff came from him. The amount of things that I learned from Matt, being right next to him, you know, yeah, and you know, there is, you know, he talked about his problems with editing and being so caught up in something and needing somebody else to kind of come in and give you that clarification or that I need that now where I am, you know, and I never thought I would, you know, but my whole point of that is saying that I've been able to, it's all about building relationships, right? So all these people that know who I am through Matt over the years, I've now been able to, parlay that into, I'm very fortunate in that I don't just have to rely on producing work or editing work. If I'm not editing, I'm probably producing. If I'm not producing, I'm probably editing.
But what's the overall goal for you, Mike?
The overall goal
The vision.
is, I want to produce, direct, and act in my own movies. And he's going to say that's not specific enough.
No,
probably.
I mean, hey.
But it's back to what I was saying about being sort of a jack of all trades, master of none. Like, I just think that times have changed and the game has changed. And you don't necessarily need to, you can, and I think it does behoove you to be one thing. But I think my goal is to.
But then after that, how many do you want to do them for? Do you want to act? And
Yes, I do.
but he has a clear definition.
I want to make a career in acting, and I would like to model my career after a Ben Affleck, after a Matt Damon, those guys who can do all that. And having said all that, now I do want to say too that something that I've just recently picked up is, because I write treatments, and I know maybe a lot of you guys already write stories or things, like, if you have an idea and you want to go shoot it, because that's what I've started to do, and I've gotten a lot of real positive reception from it. Just short films that I've written just over the years. I finally grabbed a camera, me and my two buddies, and we just shot it because we have all the resources. We have computers, we have cameras, we have everything. A lot of you guys probably have way nicer equipment than I have, but it's all about creating stuff and getting your name and your face and everything out there.
Creating opportunity. We got to be.
It can't hurt. That's the way I've looked at it, and I only post these things on Instagram, but the positive reception that I've gotten just from this small little short, 3-minute short that I've done and thrown on my Instagram, I've gotten reached out from digital companies, platforms who are starting to focus on short form content, which I don't know if you guys know about, but it's like really a big thing now, is this short form content, that a lot of this digital short form content.
Yep. Go ahead.
So when you create a treatment, you said a song is 3 minutes.
Yeah.
How do you format that story into fit that, like, okay, this is the first, second,
I mean, how to format where the story goes to a 3 or 4 minute song, or maybe even a 2 minute song. I just shot a YBN Amir video, and it was 1 minute and 47 seconds. And I feel like a lot of the new artists are going to go that way because less work for them, same amount of money, right? I don't think we would necessarily do that with the treatment. So what we would do with the treatment is kind of just get the idea out, because the thing is that we would be writing so many. We would write 10 treatments a month and maybe get one of them, maybe. So we kind of knew that, like, what we needed to focus on, and if we got it, then we would like expand on it.
Especially, if you're writing a narrative short, you still have to worry about performance, and you don't necessarily know exactly where a performance is, because there's a certain part of the song maybe that he performs really well or performs really badly that, if you're expecting at this certain word you want to cut, but on set he's not hitting that word, you're going to be screwed. So I think you have to be flexible.
We were very flexible.
Yeah, and I think that's one of Matt's great strengths as an editor, is being able to create something out of nothing, really, and not necessarily going in with a vision, but not necessarily going in with an exact roadmap that cannot delineate from that, or else he's screwed, because
we've seen it too many times, huh?
And it happens, guys. It's like, on set, without fail, you're going to be running behind. It's like, if you're on a big set and they're on time and they're early, then something is wrong. Like, run off that set, because there's just too many things that happen. I've been on $1 million projects, I've been on $5,000 projects, and the same shit happens on both.
And if an artist is involved?
And it's just, there's we've had instances where artists just don't want to come out of their trailer. They don't want to come. They're just
partying,
messing around, partying. And so it's like, what do? Now you have a time crunch. You have the commissioner being like, hey, you guys only have 3 hours to shoot, or else we're not going to give you overtime. So you got to figure it out. And at that point, it's not really their problem anymore. It's your problem. So you better figure out how to
Well, there's
shoot
two
what
ways to
you
go
need.
about that, though, you know, because on our bigger projects, like if you have an EP,
Of course, on these bigger projects, yeah, if you can go OT and they're going to let you, then sure, you know,
stay
you
in
can,
there all night. It's
yeah,
okay.
but when the times that you don't, you have to figure it out. And so I think being flexible, it was one of Matt's greatest strengths, is being able to think on the fly. And that's a huge strength as a producer too, that I value in myself, is being able to come up with solutions that keep the budget in mind, but also are still creative and worthwhile.
That's our job, guys. Like our job is problem solve. As a filmmaker, more so even as a director, your job, every aspect. As a DP, you need to figure out how to problem solve. Like you only have this light, and you need to light it like this. Like how do you do it? Problem solve. Like I would be on set, and Mike would a lot of times, and maybe I'd have 3 setups left, and he'd tell me, you know, you only have time for 1. So then I need to be able to tell the same story in 1 setup that I need to do in 3. So at that moment, I needed to figure out, usually I would have somewhat of a plan that, okay, I can cut this shot out, I can cut this shot out. We can still make the story work, and we had to do that a lot, I mean, plenty of times. But yeah, you have to be able to be flexible. That's part of the requirements as a filmmaker, you know what I mean? Definitely have your vision, and if you're shooting your own film, or you have an investor who has a endless amount of money, then yeah, take the time to like shoot it exactly the way you want to, but I don't know too many of us that are going to get that opportunity right now, and more so, clients are going to be happy that you meet the budget. You did what you had to do, and if you're able to do it under like tight restraints, most people are going to give you credit for that. You know what I mean? They're not going to look like, oh man, this sucks. You had 3 hours. Like we had 3 hours. Like you had a lot of time. No, they're gonna respect what you did and you pulled it off. You know, and I think we were able to make some good relationships that way as well. You know. We pulled off a lot of miracles, I got to say. We definitely pulled off a lot of miracles. Go ahead.
Have you guys ever ran into a situation where you created a treatment for an artist and then you didn't pick the project and then you see your treatment?
Man, the other night, I literally, I was about to post it on Instagram, and I was like, nah. No, I mean, this one was like literal. Like, I mean, exactly. And it was for a client that, for like a buddy of mine that he was a buddy of mine. And I wrote it for him, and Mike wasn't. It was more recently, so. But what are some of the ones that we? did? The French Montana video.
Well,
yeah,
so
we did a couple of them.
I mean, I won't name his name, but whatever. So there's a director, and which also happens a lot, guys, especially nowadays. You know, and I just worked with one. I produced a video for a first-time director who started off as a behind-the-scenes guy for The Weeknd. And he is now a director. So now what's happening, obviously, is a lot of these guys that are close with these directors or with these artists are getting opportunities, and with that comes a lot of inside info for these people because they're so close with these artists. And so we ran into a situation where for a Nicki Minaj video, we got a chance to write on it for a director peer of ours, and he is really good friends with Nicki Minaj's camp. And he wasn't involved with the video at the time, but we wrote a treatment for it. And then a couple weeks later, he told us, I think he hit us up and said, "Hey, I'm directing this Nicki Minaj video."
We just saw it.
No, he sent it. I think he had sent it to us.
Well, at least he put that. At least he did that.
Sorry, I might have the exact details mixed up.
I don't remember.
But what ended up happening was this guy who was close with Nicki Minaj's camp, he got to see all of the treatments that Nicki Minaj got sent.
And hear all her
So
notes.
all he did was he picked his 3 favorite treatments, picked the best parts of each treatment, made his own treatment, and shot the video with 3 different people's ideas. And I can say that that's probably not the first or the last time that happened. And it's just one of those things that you can't control when they're close with the artist like that.
At the time, we were pretty pissed.
Absolutely.
But now I think back at it, and I'm like, okay, you know what? He earned that. I mean, he earned that in the sense of he earned the relationship. He has that relationship that I don't have. You know what I mean? He does have that in. Like, he does have one more notch on me. Not that he should take my ideas or anything like that, but maybe he didn't. Maybe Nikki reiterated what some of these treatments had said, and maybe he didn't see anybody's stuff. You know, of course, as a filmmaker, like, no, you fucking saw this. Like, nah, you know. But you know, you never know. You know what I mean? But you know, he did have a relationship that we just didn't have. So I gave him an in that we didn't have, and that's valuable. It's definitely valuable. The connections. What's up, bro?
So what's the process like? So right now I charge anywhere from like $5,000 to $2,000 for like small
Yep.
When you work with somebody like that, so like, are they just reaching out to you, or are you submitting this treatment, and then like you just hope to hear back?
Yeah. So two things. Like I said, the first is the solicitation, which you're going to get from the actual record label themselves, or a client themselves, And I got to say, I haven't had an agent for almost 3 years. I've done pretty much everything off of Instagram and my website. And I haven't had a reel. I haven't had a reel since 2012. And that's not good. I'm not saying this proudly. Like I don't practice this at all. You know what I mean? We'll go over some reels in a little bit. But yeah. So like people will reach out to me. I mean, I don't really cold email too many people with ideas. But when I was signed to Lark, which was Jamie Kahn was my agent, and she was amazing. I mean, she was freaking awesome. She had a bunch. Nabil. She was Nabil's rep for a long time. Taj and. AJ, what's AG Rojas? Yeah, he's dope too. Like a bunch of people, and she was awesome. You know what I mean? So what she would tell me was that if I did have a song or I did have a project that I wanted to do and I wanted to write on it, she would send it to them. Not that we would ever get something back, but she did encourage that. So I think if there's a product or there's a brand or there's something specific, and you have now, if you're just in a generic pitch out with like different titles on it, then that might not be the best idea. But if there's like a product or something that sparks your idea, just like Mike when he's grabbing his camera and he's going to go shoot and he's doing something on his own, at least that submission, who knows? You know what I mean? They might love it. They might love the effort and say, hey, maybe we can do something else. But how about these instructions? Write something up for this. Or maybe they don't get back to you. But what does it hurt if that idea is like a burning desire for you, or like it comes to you? Then get it out. You know what I mean? Get it out. It's another opportunity. It's a lotto ticket. You're buying a lotto ticket. If you have that extra buck, buy it. You might win, you might not, but hey, what's a buck? Absolutely. You know what I mean? And I would encourage that. It's not something that we did, and I would say just because we were just overworked, we didn't know our creative boundaries. So yeah.
Not to separate the music from the visuals, but have you ever run into just you have an idea that's more like a cinematic experience? You just want to shoot the video. You want it to be a music video, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the song.
Well, see, we look at it from a different standpoint, because I think if you want to do that, then you're putting yourself into a position where, like, okay, if I get hired to paint this white psych, and they say, hey, just paint it white. But I come in with this desire to paint a mural, that company's probably not going to be too happy with me as a painter, right? So then I might need to go do my own mural for my own stuff, right? But then still be able to paint this, maybe paint this white wall, and then go take that money and put it into that project. Because then maybe the brand doesn't, and maybe you're like, oh, maybe the brand doesn't know what they need. Or maybe I need, but, yeah, go ahead. No.
What I'm more so saying is the story could probably translate to multiple different songs.
Yeah.
And stuff, but it's a solid idea. My question is, have you ever written a treatment that could potentially be shopped around to different projects?
Yeah, I think all of our ideas were pretty flexible. Like for instance, the idea that we wrote for Little Pump was like it was with an orchestra, but I wrote him in like this big. This was before his last couple of videos, because it's funny because his actual last couple of videos kind of had this sort of theme with them, but it was in this like really, really grandiose mansion. It had like all these things, and it was an idea that like could kind of be, if for him it was going to be a little bit outlandish. He was wearing fur coats, and it was just like very cinematic. It was like violin players playing with like masks on, and it was just like really weird and stuff like that. So I took that idea and I submitted it for Kodak Black. But that's where I got in trouble, because that's when the commissioner said, research your artist. Kodak Black does videos on a fucking cell phone. This doesn't fit him. It's a dope idea, right? But then for me, it didn't fit the artist. It didn't fit the brand. And so that's where you kind of get a little bit stuck, I mean, a little bit like it gets a little sticky. And I thought it was a perfect idea. Like I even told Mike, and Mike's like, well, maybe you should rework it. I'm like, nah, this is perfect. It's perfect. You know what I mean? So, and it's a dope idea, and it might work for somebody else, but you have to take it by a case-by-case basis, definitely. And then, like I said, man, try to sell it. Like, try to sell it in a, like, if you can actually meet with somebody, try to sell it then, like, oh man, I have the perfect, pitch it in whatever way that they're going to actually be able to, like, because you never know. You can pitch some wild ideas to somebody, like, as long as they're receptive to you, you know?
And another new kind of way to pitch an idea that I just saw, which I commend him because I don't know who has the time to do this, but this director that I just worked for, that he made a music video for he put like 4 of his favorite music videos that fit with his idea for this music video.
Well, we're going to show the ICM stuff. So Mike did help me a lot with
cool.
ICM.
So, but this kid, basically, he created like a music video,
for
a fake music video for this video. So he was using, it was for this, I don't know if you guys know who PNB Rock is. He's like an artist. PNB Rock and Little Skies. The video just came out. It's called I Like Girls. I saw his treatment for it, which was a visual treatment. It was a music video from a Jaden Smith video, like 2 other videos, and he picked parts of the video that he liked.
Oh, I can't wait to show it.
Edited them together under the song, and like, I tell you, I saw it and I was like, I'd pick him to be the director too, because the amount of effort.
Well, exactly. Why not do it? You know, because we did it for when I was at ICM.
The amount of effort that he put in, I was like, this guy knows what he wants. And like, if I was the commissioner, I would have picked him. And so it's all about really if you have the time to do something like that.
You make the time. But if you want that though, because we did the same thing for movies. Like I'll show you some. We'll get into it a little bit later, but we did the exact same thing for movies. And I think about it now, it's like, who are we to say that's like it's a bad idea to do it for a music video? Like
absolutely.
Because for him, that was his movie at that time, you know. And if you guys have anything like the brands, if you have an idea, send them a 30-second thing of like other things and say, "This is what I want to do for you." If
and
you can
mind
do
you,
it.
also, this kid who did this, he's the behind-the-scenes kid that I was talking about. That started off as just a behind-the-scenes guy, and he's trying to make a name for himself as a director. So of course, he's going to go a step beyond, and it's amazing. You have to commend that, and that's what's going to get him more jobs, And so I think it's about trying to keep that persistence and work ethic throughout.
Yeah. One main. Yeah, go ahead. I mean, like him. No, like him. I would say right there, that's how you make that leap. Is you do that extra effort, because his name comes across somebody's desk. No one knows who this guy is, and actually, if anything, that record label knows his name as a behind-the-scenes guy. So why are they going to give him an $80,000 or $100,000 video? Why? Right? But if he submits something that's a little bit that other directors aren't, okay, automatically he sets himself in this pile with maybe 2 or 3 other like top tier directors just by default. And that's what we tried to do when I was signed to ICM. I would get these scripts, and then if we liked one, then I would go in for a meeting, and if they liked me, then I'd come back and we'd sit at home and we'd make these trailers for movies, and we'll go over some of those things. Mike would do the voiceovers. It started in a world, and But no, we seriously, and we would watch movies, and it would take us forever, but there wasn't we did that just to set ourselves apart, and to like show them like we're gonna show up, and like I recommend that in any level, you like whatever it is, even if it's like a wedding, guys, like whatever it is, like, oh, they're paying 10 grand for that wedding, like I got to get this thing. So don't do what you always do. Don't do what you did for a $500 wedding, because that ain't gonna work. Just think of that extra little element, and that's one I strongly suggest. Don't go shoot anything, because that's probably just a little bit too much of your time, but if you could put together some visuals from other things and just kind of give them a 30-second, like, this is how it's going to feel, this is what I see, you know what I mean? That's going to say a lot.